Hi everyone, this is Len Rainier with Wealth and Wisdom Institute. Today I believe it's time for us to talk honestly and openly. And this isn't meant to be some type of lecture or sales pitch or rant blaming one political group or another, but a discussion about your financial life and your client's financial life and how it's systematically being confiscated without any evidence of a crime. The perpetrators who are making our lives difficult are the ones who control the rules, yet they continue to put us at risk. And then they have the nerve to advise us how we should be living our lives. You see, many of you already know this. I don't believe in traditional financial thinking the way it's being sold to the American public. It's not a science. If it was truly a science, no one would have lost money. The results of traditional thinking lie somewhere lost between hope and hopelessness. Because the problem is, common sense keeps getting in the way of this type of thinking. You have to understand that we're really involved in the evolution of transferring away most of our wealth to those who create the situation, control the outcomes, and profit from it. Yet we continue to rely on the steadiness and the trustworthiness of the government and financial services industry to guide us to our futures. And unfortunately, these two groups create the most transfers of wealth in our lives. You see, I believe in our business, we have the leverage to make things happen. We have the desire to do the work we believe in, and we have a marketplace that's looking for answers. But the problem is, our industry is teaching us to be managers, not leaders. They continue to embrace the product and not the wisdom. And I believe that leadership is a change that you believe in. In traditional thinking, stability is often an illusion, and you may discover that hope is not a good strategy. Today, marketing to your clients should be engaging people with information that changes their everyday lives and introduces you as the solution in your lives. You see, it wasn't but maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago, if you remember, that not long ago from a distance we stood and watched people lose their homes and some of their retirement dreams. And in that historic moment, we finally discovered our lack of understanding about the economic trends and shifts and how they impact people's lives. The reality is the only thing traditional financial thinking can clearly predict are the financial losses people face due to taxes, inflation, and depreciation of the dollar. And I'm not criticizing our industry. They do the best they can. But many of the financial products being sold today do not solve the problems that the average American is facing. And in many ways, traditional planning is simply an effort to earn more money than they are about to lose. The challenge is this. The average American household is undisciplined, unready, and in many cases unaware that they're in the battle for their financial futures. That's why in February, we decided to come out with the lessons of financial clarity, because we still believe knowledge is something that you learn, and wisdom is the ability to apply that knowledge to your everyday life. You see, I believe that clarity in your financial life is wisdom. And wisdom is an element that allows you to see what is happening now and offers you an opportunity to review and rethink decisions you made in the past. With clarity and wisdom, you have the ability to alter and change your financial future. Lessons in financial clarity are training for our representatives, but they're also conversations and discussions for our clients. It will invite our clients to think a layer deeper about their decision-making process. And I still believe that with more information and a clearer understanding, they will be able to make better life decisions. To get better results in the future, we must begin to redefine the planning process. With clarity and wisdom, you'll be able to end some of the planning beliefs that you've had in the past and start a new beginning. And hopefully that beginning starts now. There are 10, maybe 11 coming up, 10 lessons of financial clarity that we're going to be discussing over the next 60 days. Today I want to share with you time and monetary unit. Time is a very important factor in the planning process. The one element that keeps ringing around in my head that is without time, money does not compound. So the 10 lessons of financial clarity are time, the monetary unit, the flawed formula, the core elements in the decision-making process. It's their game, not yours. Leverage, economic trends and shifts, the solution of certainty, generational solutions, and recapturing losses from the past. We've also just introduced a white paper on not only leverage, but also on inflation. It's an interesting read, and it will be put on the site in the very, very near future under the ELF of just between you, me, and the government, and the subtitle inflation. So today I want to talk to you about redefining the planning process and redefining the marketing approach that we've been using and redefining your personal and agency culture. What do you believe in? You see, I still believe that people will buy you before they buy any product, any illustration, any spreadsheet. A long time ago, I was looking out the window and contemplating my professional baseball career on a bright spring sunny day, and someone tapped me on the back of my head. And they said, "Leonard, pay attention." Those wise words came from my third grade teacher. I was daydreaming. But that was the most important lesson in my life. If we don't pay attention, we will get lost. Most accidents and problems are caused by people not paying attention. Have you ever seen anybody driving down the street trying to text, or putting their makeup on, or eating a sandwich and talking on their phone? They're not paying attention, and unfortunately, their actions may cause us a problem in the very near future. So in discussing the planning process, we need to pay attention to what's really going on. To redefine the planning process, there must be an end to some of the things that we've done in the past and create a new beginning. Yeah, and you can go out and get all the training from your companies and selling organizations on spreadsheets and illustrations and get projections and assumptions. You can get a lot of training on that. The problem is we can take a look at these things, and these are projections estimating out 20 and 30 and 40 years from now, which is fine if we can find some that were absolutely correct. And you can get company training, you can get company marketing points, you can get company materials to help you support your discussion with your client. One question remains: what in the last 10 years has the government and the financial institutions done to improve the average American's life? It's a great question to ask a client. You see, I believe in redefining the planning process. The focus should be on you. You're the centerpiece of the discussion and the decision-making process that they'll be facing. It's you, not the product. In redefining the planning process, we have to create a new beginning for ourselves. We have to have a culture within us. What do we believe in? Who we are and what we stand for. This goes outside the guidelines of the companies and everything else on their spreadsheets, because people are buying you. We have to explain to them how important you are in their lives. We have to develop that culture, not only in you personally, but in your agencies and your IMOs. You see, I believe clarity is the big word here. Clarity is discussions that people will be able to understand and ask you at the end of the day, what should I be doing? Without clarity, there is no wisdom. And here's the big word: certainty. I'm finding it difficult why in our industry we can't give people certainty into their future. But if I thought about it deeper, you start thinking about, well, our industry really, in many cases, deals in different levels of risk. And unfortunately, a lot of that risk is assumed by the client, not the companies. And I have to lean back and say, well, you know what? If the company's offered certainty, then the company's the one at risk. So we see a lot of great planning going on where the certainty is lost. And we have to understand that in our delivery, there needs to be consistency and a purpose. In redefining the planning process, I believe that we can base a real good element for the public when it comes to our culture, our clarity, and our certainty in our discussions. See, we need to redefine the planning process and begin a new process focusing on financial restoration. That means changing some of the thought process and changing the way some of the approach has been in the past. I believe that if we really slow down the process, make it simpler, and have the right discussions, here's a great line to use in front of your clients. We will never get to the right solution if we're having the wrong conversation. You see, the new beginning should be resulting in increased money supplies for them, more better benefits for themselves and their families, and reducing the element of risk. And that new beginning should be presenting you as a solution in their lives. You see, that is the type of planning and discussion and training I believe we should follow. Because there's a lot of information out there, even that we can use in our marketing approach. Our marketing approach has been basically, look at my company, here's their illustrations. We did a little bit better than the one you got on your lap right there. We can get you a higher rate of return. But I can't find professionals in our business that say these illustrations and these spreadsheets have any merit after 30 days. They're wrong. And there's a reason for that. And we need to take a look at some of that. In the marketing approach, we need to master the communication process. We have to know who we are and what we believe in. And this is your inner culture. You see, your core elements in developing your culture are very easy. They're not difficult, and it doesn't take a lot of time. You're not going to lose any selling time by increasing your knowledge and your wisdom. We call this awareness training. We want to talk to the client about the challenges they're facing on their everyday situations and the myths and realities behind traditional thinking in trying to solve some of the problems that they face. Knowledge and wisdom are the first core elements in your marketing approach. The second part is the confidence. With the knowledge and wisdom, you will gain confidence, and you'll have the right approach and the right message that will have the ability to change people's lives because you're making them think differently. They are understanding why they're not getting ahead. And there are many reasons for that. Skill. With knowledge and wisdom and their confidence, your skill level is going to increase. You can see the confidence and the skill. This is where people buy you. Marketing to a message in conversations and discussions, understanding the words that you use are very important, and becoming a leader, not a manager. What companies are looking for managers? Burger King and McDonald's. Our clients are looking for leaders that will help them through not only the next 20, 30, 40 years, but have discussions that will impact the next 20, 30, 40 days of their lives. With those three, the knowledge, the confidence, and the skill, all of a sudden you're going to develop an attitude of attraction and the want of people to meet you, the want of them wanting to discuss things with you. Because these core elements in your marketing approach are very important in selling yourself. And finally, developing the passion. We have to learn to touch the passion of the client. So far, we've been taught to touch the passion of the illustration and the product. And that spreadsheet comes in handy because we can knock on the door knowing that we're correct in our numbers. We have it in our briefcase, and it becomes our passion. Except when we walk into a business office or knock on the door of someone's home, and they open the door and let us in, there's a whole different set of passions facing us. And remember, they will buy your passion before they buy any product in your lives. And what we're really looking for in our industry is respect and credibility. If we follow these elements in a training path that is very easy to understand and very easy to learn, using the right words, the right communication skills, you will gain respect and credibility in our industry. You see, only your communication skills can make this happen. The illustration can't. Your company can't. This is something that you develop inside your mind, inside your being. The core of communication and development is a culture and a system that will create revenue and delivers value for your clients. That's what we're all looking for. And it's not that difficult to achieve. As the products get more complicated and we're under the restraints of compliance, it's becoming more and more difficult to sustain the relationship with our clients, one that has meaning. The goals in the marketing approach is believe in who you are and what you stand for. Put yourself and your client in a position to make better life decisions. The marketing approach, the goals are simple. You can overshadow all of your competition, bring new and enlightened conversations to the table, and position yourself as a solution in your client's life, filled with culture, clarity, certainty, there's that big word, consistency, and purpose. You see, only your communication skills can make this happen. When it comes to your personal agency, your personal and agency culture, you have to discover that you must believe in something. You should have a criteria of beliefs. Mine are very simple, and I have many of them. I believe openly and honestly that I can change somebody's life now by increasing what they know now. I believe that the government has seriously infringed on my financial future. I also believe that the standard of living in the United States will continue to decline over the next 10 to 15 years. What I know today will determine where I will be in 5 to 10 years from now. And I also believe what I know is scary. But what I don't know can be disastrous. I also believe that traditional financial thinking fails to reach its financial goals. And in the next 1,000 days, it'll be a very critical time in our nation. My belief goes as deep into the family. And the family remains one of the most powerful and financial tools that we can use. And I also believe that in traditional thinking, we continue to feed the problem instead of solving the problem that every client faces. And lastly, I believe I can make a difference. This is the core of my culture. When buying from me, they understand what I believe in. And it involves purpose, clarity, certainty, consistency, and my beliefs. You see, I think that's the core of the training that we want to pursue in the lessons of financial clarity. And today I want to share with you a couple of those lessons briefly. We're going to be hitting this, and there's going to be a lot of marketing materials coming across on the site, written material, and also videos and things like that, discussing the 10 lessons of financial clarity. But the first lesson of financial clarity I want to share with you today is time. The longer I spend in the thought process about what time really brings to the table in financial planning and our futures, the more and more it needs to be discussed. I believe it needs to be a center point of this. You see, time is more valuable than the money you have. And it's the only consistent element in your life. Some people are going to have more time. Some people aren't going to have enough time. Some people will run out of time. Some people will have too much. So it's the only consistent element in our lives. But you will spend all the time that you have. See, I believe, as the Beatles would say, time moves within you and time moves without you. So no matter what you do, if you take a course of action in traditional financial thinking or you don't, time continues to move. And what we have to understand is that everybody will spend all the time they have. You can't stop it. But the important thing is, once you lose it, you can never get it back. And the question remains in traditional thinking, and we've played with this for years in our industry. If we knew exactly how much time you would have, our planning efforts would be far superior than what they are today. So the question is, how much time do you really have? In your financial world, time is the only element in the financial formula that is correct. Times rate of return times monetary unit equals accumulation. It is the only consistent element in that formula that is correct. And financially, without time, money doesn't compound, very simply. Here's an example. If your work cycle is 30 years, that's the time you have in working and putting money away. $100 in 30 years at 5% is $447. That's projected and assumed. If 2 months of every year in earning that 5%, it didn't compound, you end up with $348, not $447. That's a 22% of lost time and lost money. When we take a look at this, that $348, if taxed at 20%, and we look at inflation at 3%, in 30 years, the buying power of that money is $115. How do we bridge the gap on that? How do we take the results we expected and bridge the gap? How do we make up time that was lost? And if we don't have enough time, can we use somebody else's time to reach our results? I want you to think about that last line. Can we use someone else's time? Write it down, because this is going to be a turning thought process in the conversation with your client. You see, we need to understand and discover and create time leverage using the least amount of money to create the most amount of wealth using the least amount of time. That should be the goal of everyone. With time leverage, we can create the future financial certainty that we're looking for. We can solve the problem of time losses, and we can create it now. Remember, time is more powerful than money. I had a conversation with an agent and one of his clients. He was 53 years old. He had about $6,000 saved for retirement. And he thought, you know, at 52 or 53 years old, he could get to $500,000 somehow in 13 years. And I had to explain to him that he didn't have enough time to do that. I asked him a couple important questions. Are your parents alive? Are you a member of a strong, loving family? On a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, how's your parents doing? And on a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being the best, how's their health? Then I asked him a real funny question. Is there any chance that they would leave you an inheritance of $500,000? And he said, no, I don't think so. I had to explain to this poor guy that it would probably be easier for me to create that inheritance than it would be for him to get $500,000 out of the marketplace in 12 to 13 years using someone else's time, investing back into his family. shortening the period of time to get the results that we desire. When we take a look at that, I think we need to have a discussion about how to create financial time in your life, not waste it. We're doing some new stuff on the real growth in the marketplace. And you know what? I have investments, so let's not say I'm crazy about not investing. I have investments, and I need them to go up. But I need them to go up for the right reason, for real growth. In the year 2000, the Dow Industrial Averages stood at, in January, at 10,940 points. It didn't surpass that level for 6 years. In fact, during that time from January of 2000 to March 2006, the market went down 32% and up 48%, with the lowest level being 7,500 points in the Dow. But for 6 years, the Dow moved from its real expansion growth from 10,940 to 11,109. So for 6 years, there was hardly any movement. Now, you're going to say, oh, look at this, Lynn. It went down 32, but look, it came back and gained 48. Well, what that tells me is that's not real growth expansion. That means that the only way growth could be sustained is after a loss. So for 6 years, the market didn't move in expanding its real growth. Then from 2006 to 2007 in October, March 2006 to October 2007, the market moved and expanded real growth 26% in 1 year and 7 months. Now that's growth. You see, it didn't need a loss to make it grow. So the high in 2007 was 13,980. And then the bottom fell out again. We lost 49% of the market. In February 2009, the Dow went down to 7,062. And it once again took 6 years to gain back to 13,980 points. During that time, the market went down 49%, and it gained back 99. Now you're starting to see the math that the gains are almost double of what, or significant more than the losses. And that's being used as a marketing element. But a lot of things happened during those transformations, and we'll share that with you in the very near future. There was a lot of things that made that go round and around. But during 3 years and 7 months of the last 16 years, there's only been real expansion in those 3 years and 7 months. All the other gains were due to losses suffered in the marketplace, along with $4.48 trillion being put in for QE programs. And if we take a look at the Federal Reserve of Chicago and the Federal Reserve of St. Louis, the amount of dollars in circulation in the year 2000 was $581 billion. Oh, $581 billion. And today there's $1.4 trillion in circulation. So not only did we put money into the marketplace in the QE program, but we've increased the number of dollars in circulation. And yet, with all those numbers, the debt in 2000 was at $5 trillion, and now we're pushing almost $20 trillion of debt. It might give you some idea of the direction that we're heading. The lessons in financial clarity are very simple, but you have to develop in your own culture ideas that you want to have conversations around. What is your passion? The second lesson in financial clarity is very simple. It's called the monetary unit. And it plays havoc with our financial futures. If a financial premise has a problem from the very beginning, how accurate will the results be 5, 10, 20 years from now? Very simple. You see, I want you to take a dollar bill out of your pocket. I get paid for the work I do with this monetary unit. Unfortunately, this monetary unit is filled with instability. Look at it. It's created by an entity that's buried in unsustainable debt, the government, and is pushed forward by the Federal Reserve. The problem is, the longer I hold this dollar, or this monetary unit, the less value it has. I've not found a way for the value of the dollar to increase and create real value in the future. Because of inflation and depreciation in the monetary unit, maintaining a lifestyle now has become a moving target for many of us planners and for the public. It's difficult to get a hold on what is really going to happen and how this is impacting our lives. Because the everyday loss of the value makes it difficult to replace the goods and services, depreciating goods, with depreciating monetary units. We're getting less goods with less monetary unit value. And this is why a lot of Americans are having that sinking feeling in their everyday personal lives, in their lifestyles. And for many Americans, over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, there's been really no growth, no movement in personal incomes for many. We have to take that into consideration also. You see, much of traditional planning is calculated on a model where the monetary unit of the dollar remains stable, yet we live in a world of inflation and depreciation. So let's ask a client this. If you have a dollar today, what is the rate of return needed to have the same buying power just 1 year later? See, these are some of the challenges they're facing. To calculate this, we must understand that there may be taxation if we invest that dollar, that it will face inflation and depreciation numbers put forward by the government. Now, the government is going to tell us we don't have any inflation. And that's another lesson that we have to take into consideration down the road here when in lesson 5, it's their game, not yours. They're the one making the rules. So let's just take a look at this. $1. And what is the rate of return I need just to have the same buying power just 1 year later? I need 7.3%. Well, that doesn't sound like too much, but since 1930, the dollar's averaged 6.31%, and the real average during that time was 4.31%. Can you see why the average American is getting that sinking feeling in their everyday lives, in their lifestyles? How do we bridge the gap on this? You see, I think we need to have a discussion with people about financial restoration, bridging the gaps, certainty, and a family defined benefit program. Think about those words. So once again, we'll be marketing to a message. We'll be marketing to the cause. Because the longer I hold this monetary unit, the less value it has. Yet traditional thinking is telling me to hold it onto it as long as I can, throwing it far into the future where we'll have less buying power and be taxed the most. And the one problem is it doesn't have any leverage. You see, the challenges we're facing as planners are also the challenges that the public is facing in their everyday lives. Having the right conversations will lead them to a brief statement by them to you. What should I be doing? What is really important is to take that line of using someone else's money and leveraging time, not money, but time. What can we do to create the most amount of wealth and benefit using the least amount of money in the least amount of time? For that gentleman who was 53 years old trying to get to $500,000, He didn't have enough time to do that. But if we use someone else's time in his life, it could become a reality. And at the same time, we could avoid some of the other problems that he's facing in the future of taxes, risk, regulation, inflation, and devaluation and buying power of the dollar. So I'm really excited about lessons of financial clarity. And I'm looking forward to, in the next 2 weeks, you'll be getting a notice how we will now move into having a discussion about rates of return, accumulation, and feeding the problem and solving the problem. So with that, I want to thank you once again for your time today. Also remember, we got some great training elements coming up in the very, very near future. I will be in Chicago at the home office of Mutual Trust, and we're doing 6 hours of training there. It's free. They have picked up the ticket on this. Now, you don't have to be a member of MTL, but you can contact Peggy Brennan at 1-800-323-7320 and get yourself a seat in this. We'll be discussing the lessons of financial clarity. We'll be giving examples of the solution. We'll be covering as many of the lessons that we can. April 28th in Chicago, 6-hour overview of Wealth and Wisdom Institute for free. They'll provide the lunch. The following week, I'll be down in Dallas with my friends at Armor Financial. We'll also be doing a 6-hour overview there. And if you want to join us down in Dallas, then simply call our office and we'll make arrangements for your seating. So with that, I want to thank you for your time today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us by phone or email. And I'm looking forward to working with you in the near future and having great discussions with our clients and bringing clarity and certainty to our planning efforts. Thank you very much and have a great day.